Richard Carpenter.
Hi there, Michael Ball here, and for Radio 2's Songwriters season, I wanted to do something really special. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to meet and even work with many of my songwriting idols. Carole King, Sir Elton John, Don Black, the Bee Gees, too many to list. And when I was asked who would I like to meet for a Songwriters special, one name immediately came to mind: Richard Carpenter. The music of the Carpenters has been almost like a faithful friend to me throughout my life. It's given me a big warm hug when I've been down, given me direction when I've been lost, enabled me to release emotion when I couldn't do it on my own. And it's been a voice of familiarity, hope, inspiration, and happiness when I've needed it. That's why I love music. A single lyric can speak 1,000 emotions from a lifetime of experience. A simple key chord can take you back to a time and a place that exists only in your memory, bringing back to life those no longer with us, an instant reminder of all the love and happiness that we've been blessed with throughout our lives. And for me, the music of the Carpenters can do this like few others. I can't imagine my own musical journey without the guidance and inspiration I found from the Carpenters, whose music has been the soundtrack not just to my life, but to millions all over the world for generations. So, for the next hour, I'm going to be chatting to the man himself, Richard Carpenter, about his incredible legacy of songwriting. Let's start with this one, shall we? And I'm here now with Richard Carpenter. Richard, it is such a thrill to be able to talk to you and to say thank you personally for the music that you've given us over the years.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. It's a delight to be here and speaking with you. And your listeners, of course.
That song, Only Yesterday, back from 1975, there's a song, first of all, that shows the incredible range of Karen's vocal. When you were sitting down and writing it, is it always going to be Karen's voice that you hear singing it?
Yes. So I tailor-make my arrangements around the Karen and the Carpenters, which, stands to reason because we're familial. And I always said where most sibling groups are vocal groups, ours was that I was an A&R man and arranger to a fabulous gifted singer who came along 3.5 years later, my sister. So it's like we were put on earth to complement each other's talents.
That's a really, really good way of putting it, because with Karen, you have an extraordinary vocalist. No one can ever compete, I don't think. But what you were able to do in writing these songs and doing the arrangements and the production was you're the setting for the jewel of her voice, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I believe that's true. I agree with that. And I understood what songs were right for Karen and what keys they should have been done in. Only Yesterday, that has probably the biggest range of all, because it starts on the very first note of it is a low B flat below middle C.
Have you got the piano there?
Yeah.
And
then it modulates, so at the end of the last choruses, as it's fading out, she has to hit a high C. I threw my sadness away, but way up there. So it was a range of an octave and a sixth. Incredible. But she was also born to be a recording artist. That's a relatively, in the grand scheme of things, it was a relatively new art, the recording artist, because the first records that were made were singers, famous as singers, and doing live appearances.
Yeah.
And then when the microphone, the good ones, started coming along, like 30 and 31 and all, people were signed actually to make records. They may not have been famous before they made their records. Then they got famous. And so the term recording artist came in.
It's interesting you say that, because I came initially musically from a theatre background. So I was used to being on stage and projecting. And
Exactly.
when I got into the studio, the first producer I had, Mike Smith from the Dave Clark Five, and he told me that when you're in the studio, you're singing to the microphone, you're singing into someone's ear. You're not trying to project them into the ashtrays at the back of the stalls. and it's kind of the difference between theatre acting and film acting.
Yes.
It's about subtlety, it's about reality, it's about realism. So when you're writing the songs for Karen, knowing that this is what she's singing in my ear when I listen to her. She's in the room with me. I'm not watching her on stage. She's there with me. With something like, let's talk about Only Yesterday. I love the line in it, the promise of the morning light. For me, when I listen to the song is about remembering that bad times will pass and there's always another tomorrow. You will get through this, which is so relevant, I think, to where we find ourselves today. Do you think that songs can change them? Songs that you've written, for you, do they change their meaning as the years go by? Do you regard them in a different way?
Well, actually, no, not when it comes to lyrics. It's just how certain records became far bigger than you'd ever thought they would be. Top of the World was the perfect example. Because when we finished it in the studio for the A Song for You album, just about all of us agreed that it was a pleasant album cut. And we learned very quickly that it was far stronger than that. It continues to this day. The requests I get for it for films and television shows, and how people of all ages know that song to this day. That was the biggest surprise.
For me, there are good songs and there are current songs and then there are classics.
Exactly.
And you don't have to look far in your catalogue to find classic after classic after classic. And it's difficult to choose which songs. In a show like this, you've got a limited amount of time. I want to move on to another favourite of mine. And there's the lyric. When I was young, I'd listen to the radio, waiting for my favourite songs. When they played, I'd sing along. When I was young.
Yeah. Karen's
I could go up the old. When I was young, I'd listen to the radio, waiting for my favourite song.
Yeah, Karen's
when they played, sing along. It made me smile. You see? And you can't help but listen to that. And I'm working in radio. And that's the importance of radio, the importance of music, is it connects us to our memories, doesn't it? Is that what the inspiration was?
A born music fan, but as a kid, I was interested in record labels and radio. Not just music, all of it went together for me and Karen. And we were working on, our fifth album, which became Now and Then. And we'd been on the road so much, Michael, that it was my job to find and or write songs and arrange for whatever the next album project would be. And we were on the road so much that I didn't have all that much time. So when it came to putting out the 1973 album, I thought, let's put together a medley of oldies and make it like a radio show. Because our guitarist, Tony Peluso, did this great top 40 DJ impression. So I thought, rather than just group a number of oldies, there needs to be a song written that sets up the medley. And that's when I came up with Yesterday Once More, with the When I Was Young, I'd listen to the radio and all that.
Such a lovely way of introducing every sha-la-la-la, every whoa, still shine.
Yeah.
Every shing-a-ling-a-ling that they started to sing so fine. This is the bit I love. When it gets to the part where he's breaking a heart, some can even make me cry, just like before. It's yesterday once more. It's so evocative. It's so evocative of an era, and yet so current at the time. It's really clever music writing.
It became all over the world. That I think reached more people than even Top of the World. It just struck a chord. So to this day, that's the one I get asked for probably more than any of the rest.
When did you know that Karen had such a special voice?
I would say by the time she was 15, the lower voice, the money voice, as we used to call it, that started to show itself. I had a home tape recorder, so I have a couple recordings, and she did not want to sing. She just wanted to drum. But
isn't that bizarre? Yeah.
Well, she was a pretty damn good drummer. But
I know.
She wasn't that interested at the time in singing, but I'd write these songs with my corny lyrics and just ask her to sing them. It had the sound, if you listen back, it was needed to be matured. It was a bit twangy, but within a couple of years, it was there. And, if she'd had a contract with a major label, she could have had a hit when she was 16, easily.
Karen's vocals are instantly recognizable. From one syllable, you'll know that's Karen Carpenter. How did you create that sound? I know it's just her voice, but there is a definite sound with her within the studio.
Though there was nothing special other than Karen's voice. I knew what key to place her in for whatever the song was. And that's a big thing right there, knowing what key to put the singer in. I mean, it may modulate depending on the arrangement, but what key? And the other was, we used a Neumann 87, and Karen sang as close, it had the pop filter, the foam pop filter with the little opening in case you wanted it omni or, the kidney. And she got just about right into that, which you're not supposed to do with a recording mic, but she knew when to turn away so you didn't get too many pops. And she was born to sing and born to record because our record sounded great. Now, we had a really good engineer. He did work at Columbia, and he'd done everything from Doris Day's Que Sera Sera to 8 Miles High. And but Herb hired him away for his new A&M studios. But someone came in one day and said, "How do you get her sound? What EQ do you use?" And he said, "I take her flat. She doesn't need any EQ." She was just born to sing and to record.
But I tell you what you do, which has been a huge influence on me, is the tracking of her voice doing the harmonies. And then your voice is in there as well. Where did that inspiration come from?
It came from, that sound, the overdub sound, closed. I'm dating myself here. I said I'm 75, but I listened to the radio from the time I was 3, actually. And around, 51, Les Paul and Mary Ford were very hot, and one of the records they put out was Tiger Rag. And it starts with Les's overdubbed guitars, but then Mary goes in 4-part harmony, overdubbed, ooh-wah, ooh-wah, and that caught my ear. I knew there was something about it. And what the something was, it was 4 parts, and she had overdubbed each part, so there were at least 8 of her. And it was the tight voicing, and that had an incredible impact on me. So once I learned what overdubbing was, when we finally got into a studio, Joe Osborne's studio, his garage studio, and learned how it was done, well, we took to it like, the duck to water. It made perfect sense. So that's when we started overdubbing our vocals. And Karen, with that natural vibrato of hers, was able to straighten it out. So if you want... she could just straighten it out.
She could do it straight, and then you wouldn't put the vibrato in.
Wouldn't put the vibrato in unless she wanted it. And then she could double her vibrato.
Her vibrato.
So they didn't clash. So yeah, if you listen to like the big choral ahs at the end of Goodbye to Love. So that's 4 parts, and back then we still tripled them. So 12 of us, but they were all straight with no vibrato. So it gave it more of a choral effect.
We're going to listen now, though, to Yesterday Once More, because, as I say, it's so evocative for me. Here they are, the Carpenters, Yesterday Once More.
When I all how it was, it's all fine. It's yesterday.
Oh, that's the unmistakable sound of Richard and Karen Carpenter, the Carpenters, Yesterday Once More. Lovely to hear that again, Richard. It really is. I want to go on to talk a little bit more about Top of the World, because this was an enormous track for you, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it's such a joyous song. You can't listen to that beginning that we talked about, that guitar riff going on, the steel guitar, and your heart lifts. Is that exactly what you set out to do?
Well, pretty much yes. But, sometimes things don't turn out as well as you think they might, and sometimes they turn out even better than you think. And Top of the World is a perfect example of the latter. It had everything going for it that it needed. It's a strong song to begin with, but then you have, again, it starts on the lowest note in it, which is an F below middle C. Such a feeling. And it was particularly well recorded. And it's just 3-part harmony overdub, but it doesn't have loads of harmony like, say, Close to You. But it was just enough with the that it was singable, but also very singable. But the message in it, and it was interpreted in many different ways. It's not a religious song, but we got all sorts of letters from people who loved it, and they thought it was a religious song.
How interesting. It's never occurred to me that
For the
it's a
love
religious
that
song.
I found ever since you've been around. So if
your love's put me at the top. I guess,
right.
yes.
So if you're a religious bent, you could sing Ever Since You've Been Around would be the Almighty.
Whichever Lord you pray to.
Yes. But it's actually it's a secular song.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there you go. There's the power of great songwriting, is that people can listen to it and have a completely different take on what they're listening to and how it affects them and how it moves them and what it means to them.
I need to credit my longtime songwriting, the lyricist, John Bettis.
Of course.
We had met.
Who is stellar. I mean, he really is. How did you meet him?
We were in university choir at Cal State U at Long Beach. And Frank Pooler, who is the director, he knew I wrote these songs with my own corny lyrics and all, but he asked me to set music to a lyric he'd written like 20 years earlier, probably around the year I was born, called Merry Christmas, Darling. And so he knew I wrote music,
that song.
And then he introduced us to a new member, who was John Bettis, who was a folkie, as they said back then, and a bit of a bohemian. But I could tell pretty quickly that he had a talent for words, and I knew my lyrics were pretty hokey. So we started writing together, and all these years later.
Let's have a listen to Top of the World, if we may, and then I want to come back and talk to you about that process of writing with him. Mm-hmm. Here are the Carpenters, Top of the World, 'Cause I Am. I'm talking to Richard Carpenter. Can you do me a favour,
Certainly.
Richard? You wouldn't play and sing a bit of Top of the World with me, would you?
Well, certainly I would.
I'd love
Just
to.
the chorus?
Yeah.
So, let's see. Okay. I'm
on the top of the world. If you do the melody, I'll do a harmony. That would be nice.
I had to put it in our key.
Is it in a good key for you?
No, it's Karen's key.
Yeah, no, it's not my key.
I'm on the top of the world.
Of the world looking.
1, 2, 3.
I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation and the creation I can't find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. See, what I used to do,
It's a
Richard,
difficult song.
I always do the harmony with Karen when she's singing it. So in her key, I'd always go, top of the world looking.
Yeah, mine.
But that whole thing,
Top of the world looking
down on creation, and the only explanation I can't find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top. You wouldn't believe it, but you taught me how to do harmonies.
Yeah, that particular part is mine. Top
Is
of
it?
the world looking.
Looking
But it's a rough
down on
song because
creation.
it just keeps going higher and higher and higher, you know.
And ever since you've been around.
And since isn't the easiest word
No.
to sing.
Why would John make that the word to sing the high note on? It's the curse of the lyricist.
But you know, he'd come up with the title, and I saw it. I saw that title, and I pictured top of the world looking.
Yeah.
And that's where my lyrics ran out, of course. So, but the song kept going. So I played him. We'd get together, and I'd play him the song over and over, and he'd write.
Was that your process with him then?
Yes.
That you'd have the idea for the song.
Yeah.
You'd work on a melody and then bring him in, or did he ever arrive to you with a lyric and say, "Can you write something?"
No, I'm one who has to. At least with John, I have to write the melody first.
Yeah. And would you sit in the same room and adjust it if something?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
He
'Cause
wanted
that's
to be
the
in the
process I've
room,
always used.
even if he was just sitting and thinking. I said, I can go, John. He said, no, I want you to just stay right here. And so that's how we worked.
Well, you're about to release, or soon to release, an album of piano versions of some of your most well-known songs called the Richard Carpenter's Piano Songbook. How on earth do you decide which songs to pick and to give this treatment to?
That was difficult.
Yeah.
Because I've never been asked to do that. So I'd either find a song or write a song, and then my arrangements were for vocals and usually strings, brass, woodwinds, or oboe, one wind, say steel guitar or electric guitar, but never just the song. And so making it a bit clever to get different shadings and all, just playing it on solo piano was a bit of a challenge. So with the range that you have on a piano, all the way, I did my best to come up with something
And
that
I guess
was reminiscent, but
But because of your classical training, your understanding of the piano, did that inform how you were going to perform these songs?
not on most. It was a temptation on certain things to want to show off a little bit, all this business.
Yeah,
But I didn't feel that's what it was called for or what I was asked to do. So I wanted to make it more comfortable, like you were at your home or somebody else's, and they said, "Would you play Top of the World?"
Yeah. So if I'm round at your house and I say, "Oh, play a bit of Top of the World for me," this is how you would do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Were there any songs that you tried to strip back to just piano and they didn't work?
Obviously, Please, Mr. Postman, I don't believe would work.
What about Calling Occupants?
Well, of course not.
I love that song.
There's only one. To me, the way it was done by Klaatu and the way we did, that's the way it needs to be done. It's a full-blown production. That
It
song.
certainly is.
Yeah.
And it came from left field. I was absolutely loved that. What do you think about songwriters around today? Do you think there are good ones out there?
There must be. It's just that people are asked to, how it goes, to whatever the latest thing is. And a lot of people in the business don't think we need to find the newest thing. It's just copy what's successful right now. Not copy it, but keep it as close to what's hot right now. And a lot of what I hear, I won't sit down and listen to it, but there's not much melody to it. It's a lot of electronic business. The teams who write for Disney, let's say,
Yeah.
those are real songs.
Yeah, I know exactly what you say. And it's interesting as well, because I think the electronic thing is now and is of the moment. But the really huge, successful artists, I'm thinking of some of the British ones. You take Adele, you take Ed Sheeran, Chris
Right.
Martin from
Yes.
Coldplay. Those are really well-crafted songs that I think a lot of them will last
Agreed.
last through time.
Yes, the kids will have, and I'll say somehow I think, and I could be all wrong, but let's say you're on a cruise 50 years from now, and there's a guy at the piano, and you'll ask him to do, and he'll play it, an actual song. But some of these ones that are manufactured, unless he just has a piece of electronic equipment, he pushes a button and it plays
You just
it.
press one button, it'll play.
And it'll play it. It's a
It's
whole
not the same,
different
is it?
thing.
Yeah.
So good melody, actual memorable melody, it just survives.
Well, talking about songs that survive, writers who I admire so much, Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
Yes.
You got to work with them. The breakthrough hit, 1970,
Yes.
Close to You. Did you know as second you heard it that this was
No.
going to be... No?
No. It was originally written as an album cut, you may know all of this, by Burt
No,
and
I
Hal
don't.
for Dionne Warwick's third album. It was an album cut. It was called They Long to Be Close to You. I didn't have the album. I didn't know the song. But Herb Alpert, who in addition to being a really gifted trumpeter, is a gifted A&R man. And he heard the potential in the Carpenters when he signed us to the label. He had tried that song. He had a big hit in '68 called This Guy's in Love with You, which was Bacharach and David. So Herb asked Hal, do you have anything like in your trunk that may work for me, the way this guy? And he gave him the lead sheet to They Long to Be Close to You. And Herbie tried it, and it didn't work for him. And then he put it away. Then we came along, and he gave me the lead sheet, which is nothing more than a melody, words, and measures. In other words, there's no arrangement.
No.
And he said, see what you can do with this. I have a recording of it, but I won't let you hear it until I don't want anything to influence your arrangement. He said, the only thing I want you to keep is at the end of the first bridge, and I'm looking at the lead sheet, he wanted... because that was Bert's thing, and it was in the original, it's written into the lead sheet. So I took it and worked on it and came up with the whole thing. And the modulation, the trumpet solo, and the tag at the end with all the vocals. That being said, he wanted us to record it. We weren't that happy about doing it, but the record was made, and there was talk, and people were coming into the studio and saying, I've never heard anything like this. This is wonderful. But to me, it didn't sound like a out-of-the-box hit. Usually I'm good at this, but it just didn't. It was so... So I thought it's going to be either a stiff or like a huge hit. And thankfully, it was, it was an overnight hit.
So what? I've never heard Dionne Warwick's version.
It's different.
Is it very different?
It's straight 8 instead of a shuffle, like mine is. Chinga, chinga, suddenly appear. Where the original is like. Suddenly appear.
Oh no, that's all wrong.
And it doesn't
Richard.
work for the bridge.
No.
Sprinkle moon dust in your hair of golden
Sunlight in your eyes. No, that's so wrong.
But, I have to say, nobody bats 1,000. Burt Bacharach, he batted 800.
Yeah.
So, if not 900. So,
800 and change, I was going to say.
Being human, he was entitled to make a mistake. And
He must have been thrilled then.
He
when
was
heard
thrilled
it.
beyond words.
Yeah.
He said Richard Carpenter not only got it 10 times better than I did, he got it 11 times better than I did.
Well, should we listen to it and hear you getting it 11 times better than... Here it is. They long to be close to you. Carpenters, they long to be close to you. I'm Michael Ball, and I am close to and speaking with Richard Carpenter right now. It's synergy, isn't it? It's one of those things that a song comes along and it needs that added input, that added artistic input to take it to the next level, which you were able to bring there.
Well, to me, the arranger is the unsung hero of the business, because you can have a great singer, great lyric, great song, and if the arrangement isn't correct, it's not going to become a hit. It's the arrangement first.
Well, it's the whole package, isn't it? It's having all of those things that work together and complement each other. Looking back on all of your work, I hope you appreciate and you know how much it means to people and still means to people. You are aware of that, I hope.
I am, because we get more and more letters. We get letters from all over the world, and really heartfelt notes or actual letters, not just, would you please send me an autograph? Here's the SASE. These beautifully written letters, just from the requests we get and the sales figures. This has been now, we're going into 52 years? We're going into 53 years soon, because we signed in 1969. Here we are talking all these years later.
And the great sadness, of course, for me,
oh, yes,
for you, for the world, is what could have been. That if Karen was still with us,
yes,
the music that you would have been able to have made.
Yes. So
I'm sure you had plans and you had ideas.
I'll hear a song or write one and think, good Lord, because as I mentioned near the beginning of the interview, I felt I was put on the planet to be Karen Carpenter's A&R man and arranger, it's so deeply troubling and saddening in so many ways.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think because of the story, I was devastated when Karen left us, and it made me listen to the songs, I think, with different ears. The song that breaks my heart, though, when I listen to it, is Goodbye to Love. It's my favourite recording of yours.
Oh.
On every level. I think her performance in it is extraordinary. The pain that's in there, what you did with writing it, with the sound that you put around it, I think it's absolutely extraordinary. How did it come about?
Thank you so much. At times we'd get home from the studio, and I'd turn on a the late show, let's say. And this one was a Bing Crosby film from, 1940, 41. And it was called Rhythm on the River. And in it, he plays a songwriter for a famous songwriter, Basil Rathbone, who's going through a dry period. So Bing is writing for him. They refer to Basil Rathbone's biggest hit as Goodbye to Love. Now, you never hear any Goodbye to Love. It's just referred to. And when I heard that title, I imagined that, and live or die. And then my melody kept going, and my lyrics stopped, and John took it from there. But that's how that came to be, and it's a murderous as far as singing it, because you really need almost 3 lungs. It has that time and time again,
my chance for love has passed me by, and all I know of love is how to live without it. Breathe.
All in one breath.
I know. It taught
me. So when you listen to covers of it, of course, people take a breath before that part. But she had this marvelous capacity. She knew how to breathe properly, and And then we had met Tony Peluso, the guitarist, and I thought he had real talent. So instead of getting a session guitarist for this guitar solo I was wanting, we hired him. And he came to the studio, and he said, I have to tell you, I don't read music. I said, you don't have to read music. I said, I'm going to sing you part of the melody when I want you to come in, and when it gets to a certain point, I want you to take it, improvise. And I gave him a chord sheet. So he played. ba 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 ba, and then he started his improvisation. He got the damn thing in one take.
No.
Save for there's one other take, and the edit is if you picture it, it goes rum ba da ya da da da. That's where the edit was, but just about the whole solo was the first take.
It's extraordinary, and what it does, it elevates the song into a place that you're not expecting it to go at the end. It was a stroke of genius putting that.
Yeah,
on. Absolutely. But it's that opening. It's that I'll say goodbye to love. No one ever cared if I should live or die. I mean, I broke my heart. If you've had a life and you've had your heart broken, that's the go-to record.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
Would you play a little bit so I can sing that along? I'd just love to sing.
Yeah, because it's a cold opening, of course. But
I'll say goodbye to love. No one ever cared if I should live or die. Time and time again, the chance for love has passed me by. And all I know of love is how to live without it. I just can't seem to find it. Oh. So I made my mind up. I must live my life alone. I know, I was there. I was absolutely there. Oh, it's extraordinary. The breadth of the music that you've given to us. The best thing I can say is being the most wonderful setting for the most incredible jewel of a voice which Karen had.
Yes, she did.
Thank you so much for chatting to me, Richard.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I mean, this has been a real treat. I've never done quite an interview like this because it's not just an interview.
No, it's a chat. It's a chat. You know, it's my way of saying thank you. Thank you so much. You've enriched the lives of so many people, mine included. I can't imagine a musical landscape without the Carpenters. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, sir.
You're
I
quite
really
welcome
appreciate it.
From the bottom of mine.
Let's hear Goodbye to Love. And I hope it's not goodbye forever. And I'll see you again, Richard.
Absolutely, Michael.
I'm a major fan. And yeah, bless your heart. Let's listen. Here's Goodbye to Love.
I'll say goodbye.
BBC Radio 2. Thank you for listening. This is